This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, part of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining us today is our boy Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Well, it's another Sunday and another ugly Lions loss. On the bright side, some team may be interested in Derrick Rose. This is the Fan Report.
Yeah. It was not a fun game to watch if you're a Lions fan. If you're a Packers fan, you thoroughly enjoyed that one. Mm-hmm. You got to see your team go up by so much that you benched your starting quarterback.
It was so bad for me that I'm like, well, at least the Lions lose. I got Devonta Adams and Aaron Rodgers stacked in FanDuel. That didn't even work out.
No, that also hurt me. I was on the bad end of that as well. I played the pair and did me no good.
This game went like absolute worst case scenario for me. Is what it
Quite
was.
possibly, yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I didn't really have any Lions players to bank on, so I was kind of sitting there towards the end just going, I don't know, run the ball maybe. I mean, I obviously I was going up against guys in FanDuel that had Stafford and stuff, so I always try to cheer for the Lions over fantasy, but we were so out of it that I didn't even want to cheer for them at that point. But this game really kind of showed a lot of the weaknesses that this team has.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the weaknesses that the coaching staff has as well. I understand we're still missing our number one receiver. I understand we're still missing a couple of our corners here. But either way, I mean, Justin Coleman last year, look at his play last year. And I'll start with the defense. Justin Coleman with his play last year, playing out wide, which is primarily where it seems the Lions will be playing him, at least in the start of the year. For now, was he successful last year? No. Desmond Trufant. Is he going to be a guy that's that big of a difference maker that it just automatically stops gunslinging teams and number ones out there? Mm-hmm. No. Okudah still seems like he doesn't know what he's doing out there, and I don't fault him right now. I don't think he's had enough time to get his feet wet and get comfortable.
Yeah, it's his first NFL game.
He did get burned a lot, but
yeah, exactly. On the bright side of the team in tackles, but that part of that is from getting burned and having to make up ground on the tackle.
Right. And I mean, he definitely got burned a lot. There's a lot of room to learn in his game and how to play physical enough to, if you are up against a receiver that's faster than you can play him physical and slow him down while still being inside the rules. The pass rush, once again, not good. Aaron Rodgers seemingly had time to find his receivers, to pick apart the defense. Oh, God, don't even get me started on the run defense.
Oh, my God.
Aaron Jones looked like Walter Payton out there.
18 carries for 168 yards. Jamal Williams had 8 carries for 63 yards. Like, you weren't stopping anybody.
Aaron Jones straight up looked like Walter Payton.
Yeah.
Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl.
Again, you have a defensive guru for your head coach, and you allowed 488 yards total offense and 4 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. I don't understand.
I mean that's on a day that you could argue, and that Aaron Rodgers may not have been at his best. You can make that argument, but then again, the running game, you're not winning that game if a team puts up that kind of game on the ground against you.
Aaron Rodgers didn't need to do anything this game.
He didn't. He really didn't.
They honestly could have just handed the ball to Aaron Jones every play, and we could have stacked the box every play, and I still don't think we would have been stopping anyone.
Not with the holes that this defense has. And the refusal to change scheme, refusal to change personnel, refusal to have the personnel ready for the scheme that you're playing. I mean, this is 2 straight weeks of this. I understand we're injury-ridden on defense and offense as well, but your defense, regardless of who you put out there, nobody's stopping anybody. Your run defense is terrible. And I don't know if it's scheme, I don't know if it's personnel, I don't know what it is at this point, because it looks like a mixture of all of it.
I do. One glaring thing with the scheme, and it was the same thing that was happening last week, just in a different position. Apparently, was we were again way too conservative late in the game. Even the play-by-play guys were calling it out like this team is eating up a lot of clock for someone that's down 20 points. Like,
honestly, at that point, you looked at it, and I kind of thought the same thing. Is they're moving kind of slow early on in the fourth quarter, down by a few touchdowns, and then you think about it. Sure, they score, but who's going to stop the Packers from going down and score again?
Yeah.
You know, it's your defense can't do a damn thing right now, and they're gassed as it is. So you score quickly, and your defense is going to give up a touchdown right away. So it does you no good at that point.
Yeah.
Sure, you want to take the opportunity to have a chance at stopping them, but you weren't. Let's be real. You weren't stopping them.
How troubling is it that they had their way with us like this on offense with Devontae Adams missing for the majority of this game?
Oh, it's extremely troubling. It's a complete and total lack of coaching. It's looking at guys who are clearly beating us and not willing to adjust and make the necessary adjustments to stop. Fill the weaknesses. We know what our weaknesses are, so let's fill them.
That's why I can't accept the argument of, we were too injured in the secondary. I mean, they didn't have their best receiver. They were trotting out Lazard and Valdez-Scantling. Like, come on.
Valdez-Scantling became their number one. Valdez-Scantling's hardly a number two on most teams that have a legitimate receiving core. What's your secondary got to worry about at that point? What, your pass rush giving the quarterback 7-8 seconds to throw the football? Yeah, that's something to worry about.
The amount of time that Rodgers had in the pocket this game was... Like, I get it. I get that.
He literally could have been sitting in a lazy boy.
I get that when you blitz Rodgers, when you put pressure on him, very often he makes you pay for it.
Rodgers 5 years ago would have. Rodgers now is not as mobile.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you got to take it gets to the point where you got to take those chances. Like, you can't just sit back all game. Like, it's just not going to work. Like, I don't know. This legitimately hurt my eyes to watch this.
If he is beating you when you're not putting pressure on him, why would you continue to not put pressure on him?
Yeah.
You have to at least try to put pressure on him, and maybe something else happens. Maybe.
Just maybe. But
this isn't, young 30s Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. This is old 30s Aaron Rodgers. He's not as mobile as he used to be. He's not as comfortable back there.
Do you have any silver linings from this game?
No, none. None at all. AP actually looked continued to look halfway efficient.
I'll give you one. I mean, Carry-On looked better. Still not great, but he looked better. At least, in the first quarter, they didn't really.
It's obvious he's not going to be a part of this team's passing offense in any way. Yeah. He had one target, no catches. Mm-hmm. He got a goal line carry, which kind of surprised me. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't efficient running the football. I believe he was under 3 yards a carry, or no, he was straight up at 4 per carry. It was DeAndre Swift who was under 2 yards a carry. Yeah. I want to see
DeAndre Swift more on the ground though. Like he actually was pretty effective in the passing game today, but
very effective in the passing game.
Carries.
Over 11 yards per reception. That's pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. I want to see. He got 10 touches today. I was hoping that we'd see a little bit closer to 15 touches a game for him right now.
Yeah.
I know he had a shortened camp, but he looked effective in the passing game. He was not effective on the ground. No doubt about that. 5 carries for 12 yards is not pretty.
No.
Carry-On 8 for 32. Granted, one of those was that 1 yard touchdown. So 7 for 31. That number looks a little bit better. And then 7 for 41 for AP, which is actually pretty good. Looking at the Lions, the way that they're handling their backfield, are there any changes you would want to make?
I can't. If you're just looking at the numbers, I would say, yeah, let's try to feed AP more. But there's this part of me that still wants to try to get Carry-On going. He showed some signs of life today, and I kind of want to reward that almost. But if there's anything I'd change, honestly, it's to get DeAndre Swift more carries. I do want to see what he can do on the ground outside just the passing game.
See, the thing that I'd change is with this backfield, the way that it's constructed and the way that they're doing things now is obviously just not working. Yeah. Today was not a successful day on the ground for them. Last week was a little bit better, but today was not. And frankly, I would change things to a hot hand approach, not just an RBC. I would go with the hot hand. If you got a guy who's averaging 6 yards a carry, you feed him the football. If AP's continuing to be as efficient as he is on the ground, he needs to get the ball more. He needs, and I'm sorry, DeAndre Swift, but until you can show me that you can make plays on the ground, I think you're a fantastic receiving back right now. But until you can show me that you can make some plays on the ground, You have to earn your touches in this league, and he ain't doing it right now.
That is true. I'm just very eager to play with the new toys here. But
I understand. But
I do agree. 5 for 12 is nothing encouraging and nothing to reward more carries.
So I'd be feeding the hot hand in AP a little bit more than we are. Maybe giving him 12 plus carries a game. At carry on, I'd keep him pretty much where he's at until he either takes a step up or a step down. And DeAndre Swift, I mean, until he can show me he's got an ability to make a play happen on the ground, I have no reason to give him more carries other than to just see what we've got. So I would love to keep feeding him the ball in the passing game, absolutely. I think he's been a very nice tool out there. But in the running game, he's just not been very effective. So I would just feed the hot hand whenever we got it.
So let's take this a little more big picture here. This is now the 11th straight loss for the Quintricia Lions.
Yes.
What's your temperature gauge here? Are you about ready to shoot Patricia out of a cannon, or are you still willing to give him a couple more games?
I'm ready to shoot him out of a cannon. He's shown a complete and total lack of ability to, one, adjust. And that's not just this season. Last season, he was terrible at mid-game adjustments. Look at the Cardinals game. Week one, last year. You gave up a massive lead and ended up tying the Arizona Cardinals and a rookie quarterback. Was that week 1 or week 2?
That was week 1.
A rookie quarterback in his first game, no less. You gave up a big lead, a double-digit lead, to allow them to come back and tie you.
I want to stat how many times Patricia's given up a double-digit lead in his tenure with the Lions.
It's not pretty. Week 1 this week, Chicago Bears, Mitchell Trubisky. Garbage. Hot, stinky garbage. You give up a 17-point lead to him. He comes back and wipes the floor with you. You had a chance to win in the end. Couldn't convert. This week, 14-3 lead. You looked great in the first quarter. Second quarter comes around. Matt LaFleur, who seems like a damn good football coach, makes adjustments. Guess what? He left you in his dust. An absolute, I don't even know if it's inability or straight up refusal to adjust.
It seems like almost a refusal. Just taking it from the press conference he had last week, where he came off as no short of cocky. I would say that
I have one of the greatest fourth quarters of all time.
I would say it's him. It's a refusal.
But isn't that by definition insanity?
Yes.
Choosing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results?
Yes, that is. I don't know what. I honestly hope that Sheila Ford is noticing how grave of a mistake she made by allowing Quinn and Patricia to stay another year. Because
isn't it Sheila Ford Camp?
Sure.
She's a camp. She is not a Ford.
But I hope, because like if you look at this is a stat I saw after the game today. Through the first 34 games, Matt Patricia now has a worse record than Rod Marinelli. Matt Patricia through 34 games, 9-24-1. Rod Marinelli 10-24 with the Lions through 34.
Didn't Rod Marinelli go 0-16?
Yes.
I don't understand what it is. That was just my first point on why I want to shoot him out of a cannon. My second, he has shown a complete and total lack of ability to have players ready to play. He gets his starting lineup ready to play in the first quarter, ready to go. But as soon as someone else comes in due to injury to give someone a break for a hot minute, take a play or two off, the next man up, he looks lost. He looks useless.
And the whole thing falls apart.
It does. I mean, we've seen the total meltdown that our secondaries undergone. We've seen that when people come in spots, they can't stop the run. They can't cover their man. He's unable to get his guys ready to play. The next man up philosophy does not work here, apparently, because he can't get the next man up ready. Other teams are able to do this successfully. Everybody has injuries in this league. It's not an excuse to me. Right. But it's not an excuse to me at that point. I don't care who's hurt. Teams have done it without their starting quarterback. Teams have done it without their starting corners. Teams have done it without their starting running back or receiver. Teams have done it without guys along the O-line. Why can't we? Why can't this team? And it points directly at the coaching.
Agreed. And it's like a perfect confluence of events that, and the result that you see is this coming out swinging in the first quarter and then just getting punched in the mouth from the second quarter on. Like it's exactly what you said. Like it's a combination of not being able to adjust once you have your initial game plan and the other team adjusts to try to combat that game plan, you can't make the adjustments to meet them. And number two, like you said, the not having the next man up ready. I honestly don't subscribe to the fact that the opinion that there is a talent deficit on this team. We broke the roster down a few podcasts ago, and we said that there's a lot of potential here for some breakout players. There's a lot of talent on the team, but there's also a lot of youth. And I don't like when it comes to having like the amount of youth the Lions have on their defense, coaching becomes essential. If you can't have your youth, if you can't have your young guys ready to play, the whole thing is going to fall apart when you have a defense that young.
The big difference is we look at all these other teams that have these first and second year players that take this big step up and become these either immediate impact players or immediate stars, or in their second year, the second year superstars, the breakout guys. Where is any of that with this football team? We had it with Kenny Galladay. That was a nice piece and a nice find in the third round. But beyond him, where are those guys with this team? Developing talent is a part of being a football coach in this league, and that's another reason why I don't feel that he's a good coach in this for this organization. He can't develop these young guys. We've had how many young players come into this league for this football team and just be middling to, oh, hey, he's got potential in their first year. To the second year, no progress made. None.
Carry on for one.
There's a perfect example. Perfect example. And he's not the only one.
Yeah.
He's really not.
Like I hope TJ doesn't fall to that trend.
I'll be honest with you, TJ Hawkinson right now through 2 weeks in his second season is actually a positive on this team for me.
I'll agree.
Is he putting up massive numbers? No, but 4 catches for 62 yards.
That first catch he had in the first quarter, that was some beast mode stuff.
It was. 4 catches for 62 yards and 4 targets. I'd like to hot hand, give him more. Feed him. Give him the football. I know Matt Stafford doesn't tend to lean on his tight ends that much, but when you got a guy who can make plays and at the moment is making plays, he loves
Pettigrew early on in his career.
Well, that might have scarred him for life, and that's why. I mean, dude hasn't exactly been treated well by his tight ends over the last.
Then we followed that up with Ebron.
Yeah. But if you've got a guy who is making plays with the opportunities given to him, why not keep giving it to him? You've gotta. And Hawkinson was one of those few guys today that was doing it.
I agree. The Green Bay Packers linebacking core was depleted going into this game.
It was.
And there were 2 ways you could have taken advantage of that. Via the run, via the tight end. And the run wasn't really working, but going to Hawk was. Why we went away from it so quickly, you're right. It's beyond me.
There's so many weaknesses with this football team, and it predicates on some very key areas as well, which just amplifies the other weaknesses that aren't as glaring. We look at the pass rush, which is such a key area, and the weakness we have there. It shows, and it makes it. It just forefronts the inability for our secondary to stick with a receiver for longer than 5 seconds or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
It amplifies the inability for this team to force turnovers on the defensive side of the football. Once again, 0 picks today. And like I said, I don't think Aaron Rodgers was at his best. The run defense, it shows an inability, just that key area right there. It shows an inability for us to tackle, to make plays, to fill the gaps where we need to the play recognition. It opens the door wide open to play action, which puts your corners, your secondary in even worse of a spot. And then that's just the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball, the offensive line is shaky at best. An inability to...
Stafford was getting rocked today.
Again. An inability for us to realize that, hey, maybe we should stick with a guy who's got a hot hand in the backfield or who's got a hot hand in the receiving areas. An inability to call the right play in certain scenarios and keep the foot on the gas. There are so many weaknesses with this football team in such key areas that it just makes things seem so much worse than they really are. Because I don't think this football team is as bad, at least talent-wise, is as bad as what we've seen the last 2 weeks. I don't. I think we've got talent on this football team. I think we've got one of the probably 10 best quarterbacks in the league. I think we've got a backfield that, hey, I actually think there's talent there. We've got a receiving core that I actually like, and there's talent there. Not just 1 and 2, but 1 through 4, maybe even 5 if you include Hawkinson in there. We've got some playmakers on defense that just aren't making plays because they're not set up to.
And then you have the stupid penalties. One case in point was, I don't know if you remember this from the I want to say it was the first quarter. Odeabushi, the right guard, how he went low on that Packers lineman after a really good stop by the defense. He went low after the dead ball and like basically tabletopped him. Like what? This is reminding me of Jim Schwartz era all of a sudden. Like,
discipline is a lack of discipline is predicated by the coach. It's something that is a glaring problem that it starts with coaching there. Doing stupid things like that and creating stupid penalties, that's coaching.
And then you try as a Lions fan to look forward to the Arizona Cardinals, and I just see us getting trounced yet again.
Meanwhile, you see how good Kyler Murray is, and how much of an impact Hopkins has there, how good Kenyon Drake is. Not to mention they've got Christian Kirk. Larry Fitzgerald still looks like a stud out there, even at the age of 93. I understand their offense. And see, the one thing is that I would think would give the Lions a chance in that football game is the Cardinals' offensive line is very, very shaky. But it doesn't even matter because they don't know how to rush the passer on. The Lions don't know how to rush the passer, so it doesn't even matter. We can't even take advantage of their biggest weakness.
And if, even the secondary, do you really trust the secondary now to stop the trio of DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald?
Hell no.
Like,
I don't. Even if Jeff Okudah were to come back and say, okay, I think I got it now, and he actually showed an ability, and we got Trufant back, and we got Coleman back, even though we can't get Coleman back next week, I still don't think so. I don't think, because again, when it comes down to it, you can't I don't care how good your secondary is. If you are asking them to cover a receiver for 7-8 seconds on each play in today's league, where these guys aren't even allowed to touch these receivers anymore, I don't care how good the corner is. I don't care how good your secondary is. They'd struggle. The Legion of Boom in their prime can't cover anybody like that. It's just not realistic.
No corner in the NFL could do that. And that leads me to my final question here before we actually do take a look where we look next week was, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, was is Jeff Okudah, like, does today's game worry you at all about him, or are you as quick to brush it off as we were as quick to brush off the DeAndre Swift drop last week?
Well, the difference, I'm not as quick to brush it off as the DeAndre Swift drop because, again, it was one play versus a whole game. A very different sample size there. And I know one game is not a good sample size in any way, but we saw him in action today. I'm not saying that I'm worried about it. I just don't think he's had enough time to get ready. It's a steep learning curve playing out wide, going from college football to the NFL. You immediately threw him into a situation where he was going to be covering players who have experience in this league, know how they can pick apart rookie
quarterback,
right, and know how they can pick apart rookie corners. And in this league, especially where you have how many rookie corners in this league are uber successful? Not many. Let me just answer that right away. It's a tough position to play with the rules stacked against you. And he's had a shortened offseason and a shortened training camp. So I have to give him the benefit of the doubt here. If he's not ready by week 6 and playing more effectively by week 6 or week 7, then I'm a little bit worried. That's different because he's had time and practice time and reps, in-game reps to get ready and be ready. But right now in his first game, no, I'm not going to fault him for that. He was thrown to the Wolves today with next to no help on the other side either. I mean, Arouarier has an opportunity. I think he could be a good player, but neither one of them helped each other.
Yeah,
we'll just say that. And he definitely didn't get any help from his pass rush either.
It's just, I can't even muster up the excitement to talk about week 3. I just
it ain't gonna be pretty. I called it last week. The Packers would
dead
win
inside with this team.
I called it last week. I said the Packers would win this game by double digits. I expect no different next week. One, you're playing out in Arizona, which has not been kind to the Lions in any way.
Nope.
Two, you couldn't even muster up a win when you had a double-digit lead against this team, a less experienced version of this team last year, and a less talented version of this team, mind you. I think the Cardinals roster right now is far better than it was last year at this time. I'll take the upgrade from David Johnson to Kenyon Drake. I'll take the upgrade of Kyler Murray year 1 to year 2. I'll take DeAndre Hopkins over Larry Fitzgerald was their number 1 last year. I mean, they still have both Fitz and Kirk over there.
There's only one way you're winning next week, or even giving yourself a chance to win next week, and that's you have to. Well, there's that. I'm saying you have to blitz early and often, and I know Kyler Murray can run. So when you blitz, you obviously have to. I think it's a given that they're probably going to put a spy on him. But if you're blitzing early and often, it'll help you contain Kenyon Drake, and it'll put pressure on Kyler Murray to make some difficult throws and buy your secondary some time or less time, I should say. So I do think it's the only way you win next week is if you have a fundamental philosophical change on the defensive end of the football.
Philosophical change. You absolutely have to pressure Kyler Murray. You can't let him be comfortable in the pocket because he's going to be, in my opinion, one of the better pocket passers in this league in just a few short years' time. You have to put pressure on him. He's a smaller guy. You get in his face, it's tough for him to make a tough throw. I know he's very mobile and I know he can make plays with his legs just like he did today, but you have to at least get in his face and make him make that decision. And when you make a young quarterback, when you force him to make decisions he doesn't want to have to make, good things happen for your defense. It helps out your secondary. It helps out your linebackers. It makes your pass rush better. It makes your whole defense look better. Force a young quarterback to make decisions he doesn't want to make, and he will make mistakes.
All right. Unless you have anything else to add, we'll move on to the Pistons.
Let me ask you this. What does the spread have to be?
For me to bet on the Lions?
For you to take the Lions in this one. Well, basically, it's me asking, what do you think the Lions, how badly do you think the Cardinals can beat the Lions this upcoming week?
I think it can get ugly, but for me to consider actually taking the Lions, you'd have to give me 7.5.
I was kind of sitting right around 7.5. I don't think they're quite as good as the Packers. They might be. I
think we can keep it within a touchdown. I would hope we can keep it within a touchdown.
Keep it within a touchdown. I think it's very possible that they end up beating us by 2 touchdowns. But if you gave me 9.5, I think I'd definitely go with the Lions. 8.5, 7.5, 8.5, I think is where I'm right on the fence.
Yeah,
it's being around
6.5. You're not doing it.
No, I don't think so. I think the Cardinals can beat us by a touchdown, but I think I would go Cardinals minus 6.5. But you give me 7.5, I definitely have to think about it at that point.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good number right there. 8.5, again, another one I definitely have to think about.
I bet you it opens at like 5.5.
It probably will open up Cardinals minus 5.5 just because it's the NFL. That's the number they like to go with. The Vegas knows how people bet, and they know the way that things. They know how to make you lose money.
Yeah. All right. So the Clippers recently bounced out of the NBA playoffs in the second round. Now, apparently, Chris Haynes has reported that the Clippers are looking to get Derrick Rose to LA to team him up with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. What are you looking forward to? First of all, are you willing to give up Derrick Rose to before his final year? And 2, what are you looking for in return?
I'm definitely looking at a possibility of trading Derrick Rose. I thought we should have done it last year. Yeah. And now this year, I think there's definitely an opportunity for us to make that trade. He is a solid scorer coming off the bench, and he was very good this year for us when we've asked him to be. And I think he's a guy who can help another team, and that's why the interest is there. And frankly, I don't think he's a part of the future of this team. I think we're still a few years away, and Derrick Rose is not getting any younger and getting any healthier. So I think the time is now to move on him.
Here's my worry. Well, let me ask you this first. If you wanted to move Derrick Rose, are you looking for a first-round pick in return?
I don't know what you'd get one.
I tell you right now, you're definitely not going for the Clippers. They don't even have one.
No, well, obviously. But I don't know that you'd be able to get one from any team. And the reason is because, one, it's an expiring deal. So it's not I know expiring deals are of value.
But Derrick Rose doesn't get paid that much.
No, it's not a big. I think he's getting $7
contract.
mil or $7.5 mil. Is that it? It might be 6.5.
I'm pulling up right now.
Yeah. But so it's not a big expiring deal that frees up a ton of money on the books. So
yeah, 7.3 mil.
7.3, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a ton there, but it's also a guy who has been often injured. It's a guy who, if you want a first round pick, you may have to take on a bad contract, which that's not what this team's in the game to do right now. They don't want to take on another bad contract. So frankly, I think there's a possibility of getting maybe 2 second rounders, maybe a second rounder and a young potential, young talent there, maybe a decently young talent that has potential to be something or a role player. But I think that's pretty much what you're going to get. And frankly, I would take that. Give me some draft capital. I don't think the Pistons have a second round pick this year. So allowing us to move back into the second round would be very valuable to me, in my opinion. So I would definitely look for them to do that.
Dude, I like, speaking of the clip, I wish we had Sam Presti as our G. I mean, I know we got to give our guy time here, but I just saw a stat the other day, basically what the Thunder's draft capital over the next 5-6 years looks like.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
They have 2 firsts in 2020, 2 firsts in 2021, 2 firsts in 2022, 2 firsts in 2023, 3 firsts in 2024, a first round pick in 2025, and another 3 firsts in 2026. That's 15
now,
first round picks.
Some of those picks though are swap rights. So I don't know. I don't know if they're swap rights with the Clippers because of the Paul George trade. I think
the swaps of the Clippers are not get in this.
They're not.
Yes.
Then who the hell else did they trade to get those picks?
They have
obviously Brody.
They have their pick and Denver's pick in this year.
How the hell did they get Denver's pick?
They have their pick and Miami's pick in 2021.
How the hell did they get Miami's pick?
Then they have the Clippers, their pick and the Clippers pick in 2022. They have their pick and Miami's pick in 2023. They have their pick, the Clippers pick, and Houston's pick in 2024. 2025, they have their own pick, and then they have their pick, Houston's and the Clippers. They have 3 Clippers first-round picks, and I believe they would still have 2 more, which are the swaps, right?
I thought they only had 2 first-round picks from the Clippers, and then they had the 2 swaps.
I thought it was 3 plus 2 swaps. I could be wrong, though.
I don't know. Either way, obviously the draft capital is mighty nice over there in OKC with an already developing young, good-looking team. So they're just going to have a really good problem to have, which is an abundance of young talent.
They can literally do anything they want.
They could. They hold the key to the city. They hold the key to the city. They do. They've got all the draft capital they could ever want. They've got a bunch of young talent on this roster as it is, and they could either use the draft capital they have to build on their young talent abundance, or maybe trade some of that and probably bring in a star.
By the way, we both undershot it. So they got 3 firsts from the Clippers. Then they got a total of 5 firsts from the Clippers, and they got the 2 from Miami. And then they got also plus 2 first round swaps with the Clippers. So total 7.
What?
They're like set for life with first round picks. But in terms of that's the part that made me when I heard the whole Clippers rumor. I was like, I jump at the chance to move pieces, but I feel like anyone but the Clippers, because I want draft capital. I want us to look like what the Thunder look like. That's where I want us to be. And I do feel like you can get a first round pick for Derrick Rose. I feel like the way he played the last season, I think you can net a first round pick from a team from a contender that desperately needs a running back, a point guard.
I don't know that you can though, because I don't know if there's enough interest for a guy like Derrick Rose, knowing that he is a guy who, if you overly rely on him, he does show a lack of ability to stay healthy. We saw that this year when we relied on him in big spots. Maybe if a team is desperate enough, it is possible. I don't know. But, I mean, I also don't think that the Pistons have a talent like a Paul George to get that kind of draft capital. I mean...
Oh, yeah. We're not going to get all at once, but you got to start somewhere. I feel like we can net a first for Derrick Rose is what I'm saying.
I don't know that we can. I think we can get 2 seconds, so we'll have to disagree there. But, again, beyond that, though, where is the draft capital going to come from? What else are the movable pieces on your team? Blake Griffin's contract makes him arguably immovable.
I feel like you got to give a first round pick to get rid of him.
Exactly. So where are the pieces on this roster?
Your chances were 2 years ago and you didn't take them.
Exactly. Exactly. And you didn't get a first for Andre Drummond. You didn't get a first, or you're not going to get a first for Blake Griffin. I don't think you'll get a first for Derrick Rose. If you do, it's a back end first.
Yeah.
It would be. It wouldn't be a solid first round pick. So again, I don't know if the Pistons will ever be able to put themselves into a scenario where they can get that kind of draft capital because, again, we just don't have the movable pieces that teams want.
Now, here's the thing: let's say we do trade Derrick Rose, or let's say the Clippers are truly interested in acquiring Derrick Rose. If you're the Pistons, are you taking a guy like Pat Beverly, Lou Williams? Are you interested in that?
Not really. No, maybe Pat Bev. Lou will no, just because of the age factor. I don't know what kind of future he's going to be a part of with this team. I like Lou Williams as a player, but I don't think he's going to be the player we want him to be when we're ready to win.
Pat Bev's based on the same boat too. He's
it's
right?
same. Yeah, it's same deal with both of them. I don't think they'll be players that we want them to be when we're ready to win.
Although I feel like Pat Beverly is like your stereotypical Pistons play. Like he fits that Motor City mold. But
he does.
But I agree. Like I don't know if there's any young pieces that I'm craving to have from the Clippers. That's why I was kind of like hesitant on this, because like I don't know what I would want from the Clippers. Like a Vika Zubac. Like no.
I mean, Vika Zubac has looked good in parts, in spots, but what does he really add to this roster? I don't know.
I want to get Reggie Jackson back. Like
no, hell no. If I'm the Pistons,
imagine if we did that.
If I'm the Pistons, I'm looking at going somewhere else to try to grab some draft capital, maybe jump back into the second round, and maybe even grab 2 spots in the second round in this draft and try to take advantage of the talent that could be there. I think there are some steals available to some teams in the second round that we could look at and be excited about. So, but who knows if they'll be willing to do that. I know that they'll want to get a first-round pick for Derrick Rose, and if it is possible, I would hope they would go after it. But we'll see. I mean, the Pistons haven't really shown an ability in recent times to make a good trade and get the most for the talent that they have. And we saw that very much so with the Andre Drummond trade.
Oh, they squandered that opportunity.
Yeah, they seem to pull the trigger on trades way too late. You know, guys that we should have traded the year prior, the offseason prior, or even the deadline prior, and they choose not to hold on to this 8th seed hope, and then they end up trying to trade them in the offseason, and lo and behold, nobody wants these guys, or if they do, it definitely isn't for what you would have gotten for them before.
So, and basically, in this scenario with the Clippers, like I do feel like your best case, like the best return you can hope to get, like draft capital notwithstanding, is like, let's say you were to trade Derrick Rose for Lou Williams straight up. Sure, that saves you an extra $700. That gives you an extra $700,000 in money coming off the books next season. So that could be your best bet. I guess that's the only positive. If you're a Vika Zubac fan, then I guess you can go there. I just not big on grabbing
Nothing
him.
on the Clippers roster really excites me for something that this team can build with. And like I said, if we're trading guys right now, it better be for draft capital or young assets.
Exactly. And Clippers don't even have draft capital to give you. So like, that's why I'm hesitant to move them to the Clippers.
Frankly speaking, with the way that the Pistons books are right now, I would look for, they have so much money to spend this offseason that maybe adding a guy for another year to hold on to a contract for another year isn't necessarily the right move. Try to maximize the opportunities that you have this offseason.
What you can do is take money off other teams' books in exchange for some draft cap. Like,
there you go. I think that's a great opportunity for the Pistons. That's where the draft capital can come from. Good call. Because you do have a ton of money to spend right now, and you're not ready to win by any means. So maybe take some money off of some other team's books in exchange for some draft capital. You get that draft capital and to take away the money that they have on their books to free them up. And hey, now you got yourself a little bit more draft capital than you had before on a team that's in the middle of a rebuild and still has a ways to go.
And then once Blake Griffin's contract expires, I think it's 2 years now, 1 or 2 years.
I thought it was 3 because he's got the option.
Yeah, it was 3. Like this. Like I think it was. I thought like this year was like at the start of this past season, he had 3 years total left. Let me look up. I can look it up.
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
So 2019, 2020. So he's got 1 year and then he's got a player option. So he's got 2
which
years.
you will probably pick up
For $39 million. Yeah, I would think so.
But that, like, I wonder how much, like, in that season, how much you can move, like how much you can move Blake Griffin, like what you can get in terms of draft capital for giving someone a basically $40 million expiring contract. That's in our area where we're in the future. Pistons could look to acquire some draft capital.
That's a big expiring deal.
Yeah. But right now, your only hope is praying you can find a team that would take, if you are willing to shop Derrick Rose, praying you can find a team willing to go up a first for him, and then, taking on money from other teams in exchange for draft capital. Other than that, you got nothing.
Because the other option...
It's going to be a long rebuild.
The other option that they have with this offseason is spending that big money on bringing in talent, which, again, I don't think now is the right time to do that because we're not ready to win. And our young talent isn't...
Draft your core first.
Exactly. You got to draft your core, then you can build around that with some free money there. I don't think we have what we want ready to go. So there's no reason to really spend that kind of money right now. Spend it by bringing in draft capital from other teams to take players off their books.
So to close out, I do want to ask you one more question regarding the Pistons. I don't know if you saw, but Dwayne Casey had told reporters a few days ago when asked what the Pistons' plans are, basically, he said, we're not really rebuilding here in Detroit. I think our basketball fans deserve a lot. We like to use the word retooling, restoring as much as rebuilding. It doesn't have to take a long time because if our young guys are making the progress we expect them to make, it shouldn't be a long-term restoring. Is this giving you flashbacks to early 2000s?
Yes. It not just that, it also makes me...
early 2010s, not 2000s, sorry.
Yeah. It also makes me believe that this team is going to look to spend money and overpay for guys who really don't deserve the money they're going to be given. And they're going to rely on them along with the talent the young talent, and hope that they develop with really no glaring reasons to believe that they will. You know, Sekou Doumbouya looks like he could be a good player in the future, but did he do anything this year that would make you believe that he's going to make this huge jump to be a core piece going into next year?
Plays, that's about it.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
And Luke Kennard, did he do anything to show you that he can be a core piece of this team for the future?
I think at this point with Luke Kennard, what you see is what you get, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. And the same deal with Bruce Brown. Did he do anything that makes you believe that he can make a huge step up this season to be a core piece of the future of this franchise?
He took a step forward, but I'm not expecting another huge step forward.
Exactly. Yeah. So, of your young guys,
that's what I'm wondering. Who are these young guys that he says he's expecting to make progress?
Exactly. And I don't know that we see that it's there. So I'm worried that they're going to spend a bunch of money on overpaying talent to hope that it meshes with guys who you hope take a step up. That's a lot to hope on. So I don't like that idea. I would much rather do a rebuild the proper way and build your core properly through the draft with guys you know can be good assets for your future.
To me, like, and it kind of echoes what Troy Weaver said back in late June, like when we first hired him. He said this isn't going to be a rebuild, this is a restoring, and it kind of, which Dwayne Casey just kind of echoed. It's like, I really hope it's just semantics. I really do.
I do too.
Because I think it's pretty clear that we are at the start of a rebuild with this team. I don't see where you can continue to build from. It's a rebuild. No,
and this offseason is an important one because this is really the first year that we've had a bunch of money on our books in a while. Yeah. And now it's important to figure out what we need to do with that money. We can't just throw it at guys that don't fit and expect us to start winning a bunch of games now. We have to know how to use this money properly, continue to build some draft capital, continue to make sure we don't screw ourselves over long term to be able to continue building. So we have to play this offseason very carefully. It's one of two directions we can take it, and I hope they take the proper one.
That's everything I got.
That's all I got also. Let's hope next week is a little bit better for the Lions. Now, we did ask this question last week. If the Lions start 0-4, we are getting rid of Matt Patricia, right? You and I? We're going to march in there and fire him ourselves?
I mean, I would have done it already, but just for the sake of just for the sake of argument. Yeah, I would 0-4. Yeah, he's gone.
All right, I'm going to agree with you there. But anyways,
I think we're both in agreement that it's probably going to happen in terms of Lions going 0-4. Not
I would absolutely hope so.
I don't think Patricia. If I were to put money on it right now, I think Patricia lasts the whole seseason. Just the way this team, the way this ownership operates.
I would argue that your money would be pretty safe.
Yeah.
It does. The timing does work out pretty well though for them to fire him, because week 4, you start off 0-4. Well, week 5 is your bye. So it does work out. You know, maybe they have. Hopefully, he has a mandate from the up top saying, "Hey, if you don't get a win in the first 4 weeks, pack your bags." So, but anyways, guys, let's hope for a better week next week for the Lions. It's going to be a tough one, but we'll see what happens. Thank you guys again for listening, Andrew. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast as well. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. We'd love to have some back and forth banter, some commentary, some I don't know. Anything.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, we'll catch you next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Thank you guys again. We'll see you later. Bye.
Peace.